Tokusatsu, taking the form of many shows including Super Sentai, Kamen Rider, and Metal Heroes. And today, a group of fans come together to review it for you as Toku Secrets.
Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of the Toku Secrets podcast presented by AnimeSecrets.org. I'm your host, Nathan Desa, Yellow Owl. And today we are continuing our journey through Choujin Sentai Jetman, our flight, if you will. We are now going to be covering pretty much all the remaining episodes we have left before we get into the 4-part in-game arc. So in this case, it's episodes 33 through 47. Of course, we have the whole crew here again, so I'll give the whole crew a second to introduce themselves. So go ahead, guys.
Hey, so I'm Black Condor, also known as Rids, and I'm joined by...
I'm Patrick, and I'm still Shinken Red.
All right.
I'm also known as Green Eagle.
And we have the whole crew here. That's good. So we have quite a few episodes, roughly 15. So this is going to be a slightly longer podcast. So let's just jump right in. I'll give a brief recap of the things that happened in the previous podcast. So the Jetman received their second mech. It's a bird-like ship called the Bird Garuda, which can transform into the Jet Garuda. They obtained this from a group of warriors who came from the reverse dimension. They were killed by Radiguet, though. Jet Garuda can combine with Jet Icarus to form Great Icarus, which is like their super robo for this season. For the first time in Sentai history, we got a third mech. In this case, Tetra Boy, which is this quick and agile boxing robot with artificial intelligence. So no one pilots it, it just goes by itself. And it can transform into a cannon called the Tetra Buster. The Vyram briefly upgraded their biodimensional bug to create more powerful biodimensional beasts, which are like half animal, half inanimate object. And we got a 3-parter where several things happened. Guy and Kaori finally got together when Guy attempted to give his life for her, while Ryu discovered what actually happened to his girlfriend Rie. She was turned into Maria. And pretty much that 3-parter concluded with the Jet, pretty much among everything else, the Jetman, after, spending over half the series engulfed in all this internal drama and fighting, they have finally, acknowledged themselves as friends, and they consider themselves a 5-man team. Very heartfelt moment in the last episode we watched. So that brings us to where we are now. We are going to start with episode 33. It's a cockroach. This is a filler episode that's kind of dedicated to Ryu. So we'll go over this briefly. So in this episode, the Jetman are in need of new weapons when their current ones are rendered useless by a cockroach glue monster called the adhesive cockroach. And they have these new weapons, these blasters called the smash bombers. But they can't use them because the blueprints were lost when their creator was killed when the Earthship blew up. And he left the designs in the care of his daughter. And the entire episode is Ryu trying to be all buddy with the girl Mika, but she doesn't want to give them to Ryu because she resents her dad because he neglected her. The scientist that designed the Beak Smashers is briefly seen in a flashback. He is portrayed by Daisuke Ban, who previously portrayed Makoto Jin, the second Battle Cossack in Battle Fever J. So it's cool. We got another former Sentai Ranger actor here. That pretty much sums up this episode. Nothing major. It's kind of a stock filler episode, but I'm going to open up the discussion now. I guess I'll just pick someone at random. Riz, you want to start off? Give your thoughts on this episode.
Yeah, so honestly, I didn't really care about this episode all that much. I mean, yeah, it's Rio-centric, but honestly, I don't know. I think I'm turned off by the fact that it was a cockroach monster, and I don't like cockroaches to begin with. But also, uh, it wasn't that memorable to me, honestly. Like, it was cool to have, the new weapon come into play, and it was nice to, have Mika's story in this. But overall, this isn't an episode I'm going to remember because it's just not that memorable to me at all. Like, it just wasn't done as well as it could have been. But that's my opinion.
Anthony, you want to go in, or Patrick, whoever?
I'll go.
Okay.
This episode was just okay at best. I only remember the cool weapons because of how the way the shots are, because like it just zigzags onto its target. With even if you miss, it still hits its target, which is actually pretty cool in my personal opinion. Other than that, I don't really see anything interesting about this episode at all. So yeah, it was alright.
And Patrick?
Yeah, it's just typical Jetman filler flair. It introduced a new weapon. Like, yeah, the visuals on the attack are cool, but there's nothing else to say about it.
Yeah. I mean, there is this cool moment at the beginning which kind of acknowledges what happens in the previous episode where we see Ryu and Guy at a bar and they're like, toasting their friendship or something, but it's like for 2 seconds and doesn't even end up impacting the rest of the episode. That's probably the only thing I remember about this. It was a cool scene though. Uh, I I don't know. Right now, with the notes that I have here, I'm going off like the thoughts that I have after I watched the episode. I gave this one like a 5. What about you guys?
I give it a 5 too.
I'll give it a 4 or 5 because again, this isn't something that will define Jetman, and it wasn't that engaging. I mean, we all agree it's typical filler with nothing really going for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
What about you, Patrick? Your
Yeah.
rating?
Yeah, it's about the same as everyone else. It's average as
Okay.
average you can get.
All right, cool. Then we can move on to the episode 34, Ryu the Traitor, another filler episode, Ryu centric. This episode is kind of a mystery episode where Ryu looks like he's betraying the Jetmen when he makes a deal with Gray. He steals the schematics and for Tetra Boy, and in exchange for Rie's freedom. Most of the episode is the other Jetman, trying to figure out what's going on with him. But then it turns out it was just a plot for them to kind of infiltrate the Virum's base. Although it doesn't end up going anywhere. Like they try to destroy the device that allows the Virum to travel between the two dimensions, and nothing happens. I mean, I thought it was entertaining. I think some of the action is pretty great, and I mean, I like the acknowledgement of Ryu's relationship with Maria, but I mean, it's not as good as it could have been. Uh, but what about you guys? What are your thoughts?
This really should have been, I think, maybe either a two-parter or a full arc, because they've painted Ryu as being a bit desperate at times after finding out that who Maria is, and this could have been an interesting like 2-3-parter or something, but
Yeah,
it just got relegated to a throwaway one-off episode. So
Yeah.
yeah,
agreed. Like, I want to like this episode because I thought the deception and the mystery of Ryu was cool, but honestly, Patrick's right. This should have been a two-parter minimum, three-parter if we're going for like the gold. And it resolved too quickly, I felt, to be anything more than filler.
I know, because this was the first time they had ever stepped foot in the Virum's head base, and it was just treated as
Yes.
whatever moment.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, this is the equivalent of the Rangers just teleporting into the moon base and saying hi to Rita Repulsa and Lord Zed.
And
Yeah.
then bailing.
And then bailing with no consequence. Like, no, you don't do that. That's just not possible, like.
What's really annoying is that, like, they report back to Aya at the end of this episode, and they report that they failed to destroy it, but Aya thinks, okay, sure, we failed, but the fact that we infiltrated it all, that's a big win. And they hint as if they're going to do it again, and spoiler alert, they never attempt to do that thing again.
Yeah.
So it's just that always got on my nerves. Like, because spoiler alert, that this whole thing of them infiltrating the Virum's base doesn't really play a part in the in-game story arc either. So
No.
it's pointless.
Yeah. Also, screw Ryu for giving up Tetra Boy. That's my favorite Mechanist Sentai.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I like Tetra Boy a lot.
I like the way he jumps and like he just looks very energetic and just like
Exactly. How can you not like an energetic droid?
Yeah.
pretty cool.
It was just I love Tetra Boy. I know we're going on a tangent here talking about the mechs right now, but Tetra Boy is literally my boy, okay? And for you to give Tetra Boy up for your girlfriend who's turned evil, I mean, no. Give up Icarus or Garuda if you gotta, but not Tetra Boy.
I was gonna say something, but I was like, I don't know if that would be too cheesy for me to say right now because I'm
Do
like,
it.
it's Robo Bros before Hose, man.
Oh my gosh.
That's perfect. The only thing that would make Pepper Boy just a little bit better is if he tops like Liner Boy from Go-Go 5.
So I'm tempted to make this a caption on the podcast now. Robo Bros before Hose. I wonder if I would get flagged for that.
People are gonna click on this episode. What the heck happens here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, what is this?
Toku's Secrets After Dark.
Oh yeah.
See, I was worried because I was like, I don't know if that's really like PG friendly to say because, like,
Yeah.
you know.
Eh,
No, it worked.
yeah. It's fine.
Okay.
It's fine. Okay.
They
This
should have had Pepper
episode-
Boy be able to talk.
But I will say this though, this was a better like fake traitor episode than like a certain episode of Overdrive that I will not discuss right now because I really annoy and hate it.
Well,
Moving on. I'm gonna give this episode a 6, I think.
yeah, I agree. 6.
Yeah. For
I give it a
being-
6 too.
Yeah, for being a massive tease.
Yeah.
Ooh, wait, that means we go to one of my favorite episodes from this batch. I'm excited now.
Really?
I like this one.
Episode 35.
Yeah.
All right. This one is called "The Courage to Fight," given by a dove. It's a filler Akko-centric episode. Not much happens. It's basically just a plot of the day where Akko befriends a little girl who is crippled, and but she's able to talk to doves, and the whole episode is her trying to help the little girl find the courage to go through with this operation that can cure her. You know what, Riz? You said this is like one of your favorite episodes, so go ahead, like just explain it.
Not much happens. Nate, do you have no heart? A lot of things happened here.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
What's
You're so passionate about this. Go ahead.
Man, Rizwan
Akko-
is full offensive over here.
Akko, for once in her life, had a meaningful, character-centric episode. And I honestly, for the first time, feel like we got to see Akko as a character and not just a filler for the suit. Um, I love this episode because one, it gives Akko something to do. It shows Akko's humanity and empathy that she can relate to this girl who's going through this tough time. I also liked the storyline of the little girl struggling to deal with, the courage to come up and do her operations she has to do to get better, and how she forms this weird bond with the dove that honestly, this bond should not exist according to the rules of this world. Like, the fact that she can co-inhabit a dove's body and can see what the dove sees from miles and miles away while she's still in the hospital room. That didn't happen, but it's still a really beautiful thing because it gives her hope and it gives her a reason to keep going. Because if she didn't have the dove, I don't know if she would have made it this long as fighting whatever illness she had. And Akko stepping in and helping and encouraging her and all that. That's a big thing for Akko's character, in my opinion, and nothing happens, Nate. Really?
Should have said that.
You were looking a lot deeper into it. I didn't think you would get that much out of this episode, but I'm glad that you got something out of it.
Well, this is one of my favorite episodes I've seen so far. I mean, in the season, honestly. It's not as good as like the three-parter that we had prior, but it's still pretty damn up there in my opinion.
Yeah, I think it that. I mean, okay, I got a little bit annoyed when I first watched it because it tries to give another environmental message because like there's scenes where like we see people like dumping toxic waste into the lake, which that's how the Vyram creates their monster in this episode, who looks a little bit like Chuck E. Cheese, by the way.
Okay, but we can all agree the environmental message push they're doing in this season is still eons better than what we got in Wild Force.
Of course, yes.
It's better than that. Captain Planet is better than that. Okay,
Hey,
maybe not that.
Planet
But...
is my jam. Okay, don't insult my man.
All right, all right.
Man, you're going after my people today.
Yeah, that hearing about what like Riz has to say, taking that deeper look, I actually have a bit of a pet on this episode. Then, but what about Patrick and Anthony? What did you guys think of this episode?
You can go first.
Yeah, I think hitting him on the head that Akko finally gets something because for the season that, like I said, it's very biased towards two characters on its cast. To finally have one for one of the characters that gets left in the dust is welcomed. That's all I really have to say about it. Riz pretty much said everything else.
Yeah, and Anthony.
This episode, the fact that like this is like the first, I think it's one of the coolest times where like I think this I forget how does a character who gets temporary blindness is that like something that rarely happens in Sentai or no?
Temporary blindness. What do you mean?
Like with what happened to Akko, she couldn't see for a while.
I think I'm not sure.
Oh, it
I
could
don't know
be,
if
but
it's common or not, but it happened.
Yeah.
And the fact that she had to like rely on around the little girl to help her, that was actually pretty good too. And then you have the scene with her actually getting to pilot the mech. That was actually pretty cool too, because like I know that's probably some kid's dream. Like I just want to pilot a giant robot, So she's living my dream. So
Also, here's a hot take from Riz. Y'all ready for this one?
Go ahead.
I like this kid more than like the kid in space that Carlos had to befriend.
oh yeah,
What was her
That's
name?
not-
Sylvie?
Yeah, Sylvie. Yeah.
That's not a very high bar though.
It isn't, but this is the template for how you do an episode like that. because you actually let the kid into the cockpit of the Megazord and let her use the levers and be a superhero for all of 5 minutes. I mean, that's a huge thing to give a
Hey,
kid a
kid,
confidence.
do you want to go into the vacuum of space with no helmet?
It was so stupid.
Yeah, that was now that you reminded me of it. I forgot about that actually.
You have her of all people be the one that discovers Andros' battleizer. But yeah, I just wanted to bring that up. That always bothered me.
That still to me was like, that actually happened in the show. Like, oh my god, like this little
I
girl is
don't,
the reason why you have an analyzer.
I don't mind that she's the one that discovered the battleizer. It's actually that's not my complaint. It
Yeah,
was
yeah, I know. She
her,
was an annoying character.
yeah.
What do we want to give this Jetman episode?
A 9.5, damn it.
Only
Passive
go for a
aggressive
7.
rating.
I'd go for a 7.
Yeah, that
I'm
about
gonna give
all
it.
lines up for me.
Anthony?
I'm gonna give it 8.
Okay, cool. Well, the filler episodes are done for a brief moment. We have a 2-parter here for episodes 36 and 37. This is the introduction of a new villain. Well, sort of. We'll get into that. So, in episode 36, Toran attempts to take. So basically, Toran is angry at the other Vyram belittling him because he's a child, and he creates this ant monster that turns people into these like ravenous humans, including Kaori. They all get like this endless appetite. The Jetman foil his plan in episode 36, which and then they hesitate to kill Toran because he's just a kid, and Toran gets incredibly angry at this and goes and like flees under a waterfall, and he becomes so angry that his emotions cause him to undergo this massive growth that transforms him into his adult form, Tranza. So Toran is no more. He is now Tranza. And that leads into the second part, episode 37, where Tranza, after spending like the first half of the episode toying with the Jetmen, he pretty much basically beats the Jetman down into submission and then goes into the Vyram and declares himself Emperor of the Vyram. So at least for the time being, he is now the acting boss of the Vyram, although the other Vyram are just acknowledging him grudgingly. A brief fun fact, Tranza's actor, Yutaka Hirose, is I guess at this point you could say that he was kind of a veteran actor at playing a lot of villainous and anti-heroic roles, because he had some major roles. He played Lewanda, who was a general for the Mess Empire in Shinsei Flashman. Side note, I literally just finished watching Flashman like 2 days ago. It's a really great Sentai. I think we're going to have to take a look at it here on the Toku Secrets podcast at some point. He also played a Kenji Sugigata / Dr. Kemp, who is one of the main villains of Choujin Sentai Liveman, another Sentai we're going to take a look at. And this was a slightly smaller role because he only appeared in 9 episodes, but he was still a major character. He was the character Jin Matoba in Die Ranger, who's like this anti-hero martial artist guy. So yeah, he's been around the block with Sentai. The first thing I want to say about this, briefly, I want to kind of just kick it off. Episode 36 literally begins with so the side plot with the Jetman is that Aya is taking them on like some vacation out like in the country or something, and I love episodes like that. I remember Car Ranger did something similar too, because in Car Ranger they all work at a garage, and their boss takes them on vacation. I don't know why I like episodes like that where the Rangers go on vacation and like have a change of scenery. I don't know. I really like that because I just think it shows them more. It's just a fun way. In some ways, it kind of is a vacation. Fun way to just watch them like get a home away from home. We have an obligatory fan service moment in this episode. There's a point where the Jetmen are all at like a hot spring and they're like in hot tubs, and like the women are in one hot tub and then the guys are in the other. And there's a point where Guy and Wright try to peek at them, and then they trick Ryu into like looking over the fence and then pushing him in there. That was, I mean, I know that Guy and Ryu are friends now, but that was a funny prank, don't you guys think?
It's about in line with what you'd expect Guy to do at this point.
Yeah, now that they're friends, it's pretty much in line. Yeah.
There's a very disturbing scene in the first part of this where everyone is like going hungry and try to eat everything, where this little girl is looking for her dog and then her mom gets put under the spell, and then okay, we don't see this actually happen on the screen, thank God, but the woman eats the dog. It's disturbing.
Ugh.
Yeah, no, I'm surprised they put that on TV.
It's something out of a horror movie.
This is the
Yeah,
same
no.
show that literally killed children in like one of the earlier episodes, so I'm not really surprised.
There is one other thing I want to mention. I mean, you guys can say your pieces, but there's a point where the Jetmen are all sleeping, and Raita is having a dream about someone. Hey, Raita, don't pretend like we didn't hear you dreaming about your girl Satsuki. Don't pretend like we didn't hear that. Because, yeah, I mean, he and Satsuki are better together. And enough with this. Okay, well, I mean, I guess since Guy and Kaori are now technically together, like he and Kaori can't do anything. But yeah, Raita, don't pretend like we didn't hear that. You know?
Better than his love triangle with old girl at least. So I'm glad he's over her at least that.
But what did you guys think about this two-parter with the debut of Tronza?
This is kind of when the gas pedal gets stepped on, because everything from here until the end, I think, is where Jetman really hits its stride. It's always been good because Tron was kind of the least interesting of the four Vyram generals up to this point. At least to me, he was. And there was always something about him. Like there was like some missing details with this guy, and for him to just snap, and now he's just, I guess, head and shoulders stronger than everyone else, and just forces himself into the position of power. And how it adds another wedge into a villain faction that's already been pretty chaotic internally since the start. And again, that's one of the reasons why I love this group of villains so much, is because there's always something amongst them. And this is like the main obstacle that they have to get through within their own ranks.
Yeah.
And just kind of speaking ahead a little bit, I'm so glad they let Tranza stick around for more than just a few episodes. I mean, we talked about that a little bit the last time with the old Empress and the interdimensional. I forgot what their names were.
The reverse dimension warriors.
Yeah, the reverse dimension warriors. The fact that Tranza stays like this and sticks around for what, the better part of like 8, 9, 10 episodes or something is.
Yeah, we got exactly 10 episodes left in this video, and
exactly.
The last,
it's very welcomed, and it makes this whole stretch of episodes a lot more interesting and engaging because of it.
Yeah. And I think Tranza, like, just adds something, like, I like how they make it clear that Tranza is more, like, powerful than Toran is, but he still kind of has a little bit of that childish edge that he had when he was Toran, because there's scenes where he's just going around and screwing with the Jetman for very petty reasons. Like, there's this scene where women are trying to hit on Guy, and then Tronza transforms into a guy and is like, oh, you think you're great with women? Well, I can be better. And then he starts, like, luring those women away, and, like, a scene where Raita's eating some noodles off a plate, and is like, oh, you think you can eat a lot of noodles? Well, I can eat more. So, he's still a child.
He's legitimately intimidating at times too, just because of how casual he is about all of this. Because the others have always been like they just appear, basically curse them out and then attack them. But he walks up to them in a biker's jacket and just one-ups them. Like,
But
Yeah.
what's this guy's deal?
What about Riz and Anthony? What did you guys think, especially with Tronza in these
let me
episodes?
first.
Go
I want to say that, wow, like, I'm not gonna lie to y'all, Tron really got on my freaking nerves when he was a little kid, because I'm just like, oh, this kid's something pretty annoying. I'm just like, can you just, like, go away now? But now that he's, all grown up, it's like, wow, like, he went from being an annoying little, rat to being kind of like an Avengers level threat. Yes, I did make an Avengers reference. Get over it. But yeah, that's legit what it is. Like, he's legit a threat now. But then I talked about ahead of times when they're like, "Oh, we're not gonna attack you because you're a kid." But then there have been times where they have attacked Tron when he was a kid. But I don't know. That could be like a weird. Am I over exaggerating things when I say that? Or
No, I think that's accurate.
okay, I
So,
thought I was crazy. I was like, what? Okay, but go ahead.
so my 2 cents on this two-parter, get it? 2 cents, two-parter. I'm so
Boo.
Um, this, like Patrick said, this is where Jetman begins to shine a lot more. Like, up until this point, there have been some good episodes here and there, but for the most part, I would kind of say that Jetman, up until this episode, had been kind of an average Sentai. Sorry, Nate. But
Fine.
this is where it stops being average and things get intense, and I'm loving it. So, Torin didn't bug me like it did Anthony. Like, he was just there. And honestly, he, he was just another guy in the background being a villain, doing villain stuff. But the minute he turned into Tronza, dude, the threat level hit an 11 from like what I would consider the Vyram threat to have been like an 8 before. They have he went to an 11 on that scale out of 10 because he just he was just more menacing. Like, he just exuded the type of energy you would expect from a mainline villain in the series. Like, up until now, the most threatening of the Vyram, probably Radiguet. What do y'all think? Before now,
Yeah. Radiguet.
Yeah, it would definitely be Radiguet. Yeah.
and Radiguet, I mean, he's threatening on his own, right? But he was nowhere near as menacing as Tronza is becoming here, in my opinion, anyway.
And I think this
So-
is probably the no. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, that's all I had, really.
This might actually be probably the best example I can think of a villain who starts off as like a child aging into an adult villain. Because
We're looking at you, Sprocket.
yeah,
Right.
I know Sprocket becomes Prince Gaskin in O-Ranger, but okay, I want to like that, but it's O-Ranger, so I don't know if I can praise it that much.
It was one of the best parts of O-Ranger, though.
Yes, it was. Is that saying much?
I mean, once he got upgraded up until the end, O-Ranger, that was the best O-Ranger was, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
it didn't salvage that trash of a season. Very much did it.
The only other example I can think of, and they're both pretty similar, is when Impus becomes Olympius in Lightspeed Rescue. But honestly, like even Lightspeed Rescue itself kind of tries to go out of its way to establish that Olympius is not as powerful as Diabolico, and he's kind of insecure with himself. While with Tronza, he has no insecurity. It's like he is a legitimately threatening guy. Like you
Yeah.
feel like the threat has been upped. While with Olympius, I never got the idea that like the demons were more dangerous with him than with Diabolico. So
It was
yeah, this
like that the first 5 seconds he was fighting against the Rangers, but after that he was just kind of just like, eh.
I don't know
so
how I don't know how it worked in Go-Go 5, but in Lightspeed Rescue, it really felt like that he put a wedge in the demons. Here, in Jetman here, it literally legitimately feels like that it split this into a 3-team thing. Because
yeah.
Yeah.
Radiguet, Gray, and Maria were almost like their own team against him and the Jetman. And
Mm-hmm.
it, like I said, it adds another just crazy dynamic to these villains.
Yep.
Agreed. Yeah.
What do we want to give this two-parter? I'd say a solid 9 out of 10.
Yeah, 9.
Yeah. I agree with that.
You agree, Anthony?
Yeah.
All right, cool. All right, we agree 9 out of 10 for this big thing. Tronza is awesome.
Every now and
Uh,
then we can all agree on something. It's amazing.
yeah.
Right. We can agree on some things. Sometimes.
All right, we got 2 filler episodes next. Episode 38, Sudden Hammer, a Ryu-centric filler episode. In this episode, the Jetmen capture one of the Virum's biodimensional bugs, and they want to have it analyzed by a scientist so they can figure out the secrets behind it. One of Ryu's friends that works for the scientist, his name is Yanagi. We find out that he's been envious of always living in Ryu's shadow, so he tries to take it for his own glory, and that causes problems when Tronza attacks to try and prevent the Jetman from learning about the biodimensional bug. A fun fact about Yanagi is that he is played by actor Haruki Hamada, who was previously Hiryu Tsurugi, who was a Change Dragon or the Red Ranger from Dengeki Sentai Changeman. It was kind of weird me watching this episode because I watched this episode like literally a few days after I finished watching Changeman, so it was weird seeing this actor in a new character already. What's funny is that he makes a brief. It's kind of a tongue-in-cheek moment, like an inside joke, where we see a flashback where he's talking with Ryu before he joins Skyforce, where Yanagi calls Skyforce. He calls it like an Earth Defense Force, which is an inside joke because the military organization that the Changeman work for is called the Earth Defense Force. And he says, Earth Defense Force. I'd like to join that someday. So this is like the equivalent of like, I don't know, maybe SPD makes a sequel series and you have Brandon J. McLaurin coming back, not to play Jack, but a completely different character. And he's like, SPD, maybe I'll join that someday.
This
So,
that kind of jab reminded me of in the Go Kaiser Go Buster movie where Beat Buster was inside Magic King and he was like, "Huh, this one feels familiar to me." Huh.
exactly.
I wonder why.
Like that scene from the Go Kaiser 10 years later movie where the guy who plays that same actor played a commentator who was commentated on the Battle Royale, and we see the Maji Yellow and Beatbuster Ranger Keys get defeated, and he's like, "Oh man, I was rooting for those guys." Like,
I know, I was too. I was too.
yeah. What did you guys think of this episode? It just seemed like a pretty stock filler to me.
Yeah,
So
because it
I'm
was.
gonna lay out my thoughts real quick because they're pretty simple.
Mm.
This episode should have been rewritten to go with the cockroach episode and have it be a two-parter where Ryu's friend Yanagi is envious of them finding the biodimensional bug, and he's the one that ends up giving them the weapon that they needed at the end there, rather than this
Cool.
random Like, they could have made it a two-parter and done something really fun with it.
Yeah, I can
that.
see that. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Like, the fact that they didn't do something like that kind of bugs me more because that had potential. If you take those two and put them together.
But like I said,
Because
and didn't handle filler episodes very well, and
It doesn't.
no, and like because of that, this is, as Patrick says, standard Jetman filler that won't
Yeah.
really impact anything. Taking your words out from you.
I'm not wrong, right?
No, you're not wrong. I mean, literally, this is just stock filler at this point for the series.
Yeah. You can tell this is an episode they threw in to meet the episode count quota. That was it.
Yeah, yeah, basically.
Yeah. I mean, I'd probably give this like a 6 out of 10. Not much else. But what did everybody else think?
5 or 4.
I give it a 5 or 4 as well.
I'm gonna give it a 5, 5 as well. But like, my thing is that this felt like another, like the same situation we had with the Traitorous Ryu episode, where like interesting concept, but nothing comes out of it in the end. And it's like, why did you do this again? We had an interesting concept. Okay, they find a dimensional bug, and they want to test it and study it to see what its weakness is, but nothing ever comes out of it. They just get rid of it, and they never attempt to do this again. It's like, why?
Mhm.
I can already tell they're not even gonna like, use this to their advantage in a later episode because they never use this concept again.
Yeah.
It's like, it's just weird that they did this twice. Like they had interesting ideas, but they don't never like do anything as far as like the end game goals.
Mhm. Do we want to move on to the next one now, or does anybody else have anything to say?
Nah,
No,
I'm
I'm
good.
good to move on.
Okay, cool. Next up, filler episode, guy-centric episode, episode 39. It's called Spin Roulette of Life. In this episode, all the Jetmen except Guy are turned into statues by Gray's latest monster. When Guy steals Gray's heart circuit, Gray challenges Guy to a roulette showdown where Guy has to put up the pieces of his heart circuit while he puts up the statues. So it's basically one big gambling episode. It's simple, but I like this episode. I mean, I think first of all, we get some Guy and Kaori moments at the beginning. I think it's really nice how they're talking about what they can do as like be a real couple after the Vyram is defeated. Subtle stuff, but it's fine. And I don't know. I just think in general, like this is a great episode for Gray's right, like with them having like a showdown, but not in like a one-on-one fight. They do it in a much different way. I just think, and I especially think that the way that Guy outsmarts Gray at the end of this episode is really cool. So it's subtle and it's simple, but I actually really enjoyed this episode.
Yeah. Gray and Guy's rivalry is one of the more fun ones in the series because
Mhm.
they're so smug towards one another.
Agreed.
And in any episode where Guy has the spotlight, it's always good because the whole thing of it zooming out and showing, was it Tetra Boy holding the entire casino up, was just
It was
hilarious.
Tetra Boy.
It was hilarious.
My favorite part.
Well,
I was
like, I'm
So
sitting
to give
there.
an explanation on what happened, so they're playing roulette, and the thing is that Gray is constantly cheating by using his robot mind to successfully predict with calculations where the ball will land. And what happens is that Guy secretly has Tetra Boy tilt the casino so that it will naturally fall exactly where Guy predicts it'll fall. That's kind of clever. It's hilarious. Yeah, what were you going to say, Riz? I'm sorry.
I have 100% forgotten, but it's okay. My assessment of this episode is that guy good, mixed or good story. I don't care that it's filler. Give me more.
Yeah. Do you think his moment with Kaori at the beginning was good?
Yeah, I mean, okay, so talking about the relation up until now, because stuff happens later. I like the subtle interactions you see with Guy and Kaori. It's not overly obvious they're dating. Like, I actually remember watching this episode or the episode before. I'm like, Guy and Kaori went through this whole thing and they became a couple, but they're not really interacting a lot. And in this episode, oh look, they are interacting and they're addressing the elephant in the room here. Okay, good. I'm happy for them.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, I still felt like I don't know. I think Guy and Kaori's relationship has some work to do because Guy and her are so different, and you'll see a lot more of that in the coming episodes. We'll talk more about it.
Yeah. Anthony, you want to add anything?
Oh my yes. Can we just talk about how like this is actually my favorite episode of all
Yeah,
time?
I had a feeling after like what you said about that Gokaiger card episode, this was probably going to be one of your favorites.
Oh yeah, totally. So like, just the fact because I don't know what it is. It's either in anime or it's either in television, whichever. Whenever they do an episode about gambling, I'm all eyes and ears for it. I don't know why. It's just so interesting to me. Because like, sure, like watching the real life gambling stuff, yeah, that's not interesting to me at all. But when you watch it through like a television show or like movie or like anything in general, that's interesting to me because the way they do it and how they set up is just so amazing. For instance, Brisk can probably back me up on this one. In JoJo Bizarre Adventure Part 3, there was a gambling episode for that one where like they're playing cards or whatever, but it's the most intense thing you will ever see if you ever chance to watch this show. You'll be like, wow, they actually made just them playing cards look so crazy interesting and just makes it look so dramatic and so like full of tension, and this was felt like one of those times where like stuff was actually like getting intense, even though it was just just a roulette table. But yeah, overall, definitely my favorite episode, and I love the fact that Guy outsmarts Gray using Tetra Boy. That was the highlight. I was like, oh, snap, that's how he won. I was like, yo, dope. Give me more of this.
That's clever.
Anthony, I'm going to tangent here for a minute
What?
because I got to ask you something. Have you ever watched the Kaiji Ultimate Gambler anime?
No, but I've heard of it. I need to watch it.
Okay, I've watched it all, and you need to go watch that. Like,
I need to. I really need to.
hearing you talk about this in such excitement, I feel like you would love the 24 episode series Kaiji the Ultimate Gambler. And I think there's even a sequel they made after it. I haven't watched the sequel.
Yeah, I need to watch it then.
But definitely go watch it. It's gonna be right up your alley. And for those that are out there that like gambling, first, there's a number you can call to get help. But second, this anime is really good. So check it out.
Well, I definitely will.
Yeah.
I'd give this episode, the gambling episode, about a 9 out of 10.
I'm
What
gonna
about
give
you?
it 8.5.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll give it a 9 myself.
And Anthony?
9+.
You can give it a 10 if you want. Go
You can
ahead.
give it a 10.
No, I'll give it. No, no, let's do that. 10+. There.
10 plus.
Okay.
All right. You went there.
People want to say an episode is perfect and want to give it a 10 out of 10. Go ahead. Nobody's stopping you.
I just want to go above a 10. I want to go 11, but I'll do 10+.
Yeah. Okay, that works. Next up, we get a 2-part episode. by the way, there's literally like we have no more filler episodes left. That's not to say that we don't have any single part episodes, because we do, but the filler episodes are basically done. Well, okay, there's one more, but anyway, the next part we get a two-parter. Episode 40, It's in Order, Change the Sentai, and episode 41, Transformation Impossible, The Base Destroyed. In this two-parter, Radiguet creates another monster called the Meteor BEM out of a meteor made of metal that is able to counter the Jetman's Birdonic waves. The Jetman pretty much lose their powers when the monster absorbs their Birdonic waves, and they get defeated. I mean, no, not defeated. They get replaced by a new team of Jetman called the Neo-Jetmen, who are under the command of IAS Superior Supreme Commander Akira Ichijo. Ichijo has a grudge against Aya for getting assigned as the commander of the Jetman over him, and in the second part, he actually he kicks the Jetman out because they disobeyed him, and lies to them, saying that they can't recover their powers. While at the same time, Tronza uses the meteor to infiltrate the Jetman's base. The Neo-Jetmen, so a couple of two of these actors have either worked on Sentai before. Well, okay, they all have, but in different ways. The leader of the Neo-Jetman, and they're not given colors, they're all in like standard black suits, so J1, J2, J3, 4, and 5. J1, his actor is Yuta Mochizuki, who in the very next, we get once again another Ranger who will be in the next Sentai. He will play Geki, Tyranno Ranger, and Kyoryu Sentai Geo Ranger. So we get another sort of pseudo crossover between Jetman and Geo Ranger, and more so in this case because he actually interacts with the Jetman a lot. J2's actor Ryuji Kasahara, he actually did some work with Mochizuki because he did he appeared in a few musicals for Sailor Moon. And the reason why that's significant is because Mochizuki played a tuxedo mask in a couple of Sailor Moon musicals, so he kind of worked alongside Mochizuki. J3 and 4 are just suit actors. J5's actress played a general in Flashman. I want to say something about this episode. I get the feeling that this episode may have been one of the inspirations for the Lightspeed Rescue episode Cyborg Rangers, because Cyborg Rangers, by the way, that was not an episode taken from Go-Go 5. Like, the monster suit in the Megazord battle was taken from Go-Go 5, but the Cyborg Rangers, like, that whole plot is 100% original. Part of me thinks maybe this episode might have been an inspiration for that. Like, someone of a higher command than the Rangers' mentor decides to intervene and creates his own team, but that team doesn't work out. I like to think that. There's some speculation that there was a Mega Ranger episode 2 where they try to replace the Mega Rangers with like some AI thing. But I think that this episode is also an inspiration for that. I can. What do you guys think of this one? What do you think of this episode? Anybody can just start off. Whoever wants to go first.
I really hate these kind of episodes with military-based teams where someone comes in, it's like, no, you guys aren't doing a good enough job, so here's my people, and it's just such a tiring trope for me, and it's because it's just annoying watching stupid people be stupid.
Yeah.
to be perfectly blunt, the only time any of these seasons have done a thing where another team has come in to kind of replace the current team was when SPD did it, but it was a very, very different approach to that.
And it worked.
Yeah, and it worked really well. But they don't get anything really new out of this either. So, like, usually when they do something like this, a two-parter like this, there's always something that comes out of it at the end, but the upgrades of, oh, they can deflect Birdonic wave draining abilities and everything. Yeah, it's never brought up again, so who cares? Why was this a two-parter? It had no reason to be a two-parter.
And I also can't buy the Neo-Jetmen as being more impressive than the actual Jetman because their suits, like, you can see their faces under their helmets when they're supposedly, I'm going to put up air quotes, more. So,
Yeah,
like,
they didn't look nearly as advanced.
like at the very least, like, you know, take the Jetman suits and, like, I don't know, like, make some filter out of it. Like, you could take the Jetman suits, but like color the white areas black or something. Like, just do something because those suits don't look. Now they're not the worst things I've ever seen. That would be the Dark Rangers from that Green No More two-parter.
We don't talk
Wait,
about those.
Yeah, of course we do.
Don't talk about that.
You know, but yeah, they like the jet. If I were to like watch the Jetman battle the Neo-Jetman, the Jetman look more impressive just as Rangers. I just can't take those suits seriously. And I think the thing that really gets under my skin is that Commander Ichijo is a jerk this whole episode. He is arrogant and he clearly holds a grudge against Aya. What I hate is that we don't see him get his comeuppance at the end. Like, he just gets knocked out when the base is invaded, and all we get is that Aya says, "Oh, he's fine, but he's been like relieved of command or something." Like, can we see him get fired? Because he's a jerk to everyone in this episode. I want to see him get fired.
Yeah, no. It's like the world is at danger, and you're here to mess up the Earth's defense force to get back for a petty grudge you have. Can someone run this guy over with a truck?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just come and just like
Screw this guy.
I mean, I'm not one to root for people dying, but could the monster of the day just have killed him? Because
Yeah.
nothing
I was
bad
literally
could have
rooting for that
happened.
to happen. I was like, yes, get him. No, man, wait, don't
I'm
save
not
him
gonna.
yet.
I'm not gonna say he deserved it. I'm saying he really deserved it.
Or I don't know, like, does he seem like the guy that would accidentally walk into the path of like one of like maybe the Jetman are practicing shooting their blasters? Does he seem like the kind of guy that would accidentally walk into the path of their fire? I'm just saying that could happen.
Just no more it happen.
Assuming someone doesn't push him.
Oops.
Oops, my hand slipped.
I did not like this dude at all. I was just like, oh, I want to punch him in the face.
No, that's why I'm glad Ryu did it.
Yes. I was like, yes, finally. But yeah, I was like, hey, I have to agree with you on this. This did remind me of the Lightspeed Rescue episode with the cyborg robot rangers or whatever. And I was just like, wait, did the Jetman inspire this to Lightspeed Rescue when that happened? I was like,
Even the Lightspeed Rescue episode is better because at least the Lightspeed Rescue episode ends with General McKnight admitting that he was an idiot and agreeing that he won't interfere anymore. Like, he gives his respect to the Rangers at the end.
I also want to say that Lightspeed placed it at a better point in the season because this episode really would have worked pretty well, like episode maybe 15 or something ish, when the Jetman's team synergy was a literal dumpster fire, and
Yeah.
the generals saw that their team chemistry was actually going to make this a problem, so he comes in and tries to fix it, and then this turns into a team bonding episode. But they say
that would have been perfect. I'm just not thinking that.
They it right here when their synergy is at its best. Okay.
This is probably the worst two-parter episode we've gotten,
Yes.
to be honest.
It's just he just ruined it for me. The general, the commander guy, he just ruined it for me.
Even before this little rewatch, I always disliked this episode, even when I watched it for the first time. But what
So
did you think, Chris?
yeah, I was about to say, I wanted to like this a lot. I really wanted to like it because I thought it was cool to see a military-esque version of the Jetman come in and, you know, because honestly, you gave these powers to a farmer, a high school girl, a guy who is basically the Fonz and doesn't really care about anything except, whatever. And
Font.
he tell me he's not the Fonz.
I've never heard anybody describe him like that.
But am I wrong?
No, and that's why I'm laughing so hard.
Okay.
He
So
whiz.
so the only person in their group who could feasibly have been a Jetman if the accident didn't happen was Ryu. The other four, they weren't meant to be Jetmen.
Yeah,
So, having a military group step in some episodes later when they get everything resettled could have been a very interesting plot.
Mm-hmm.
It could have done something like if they had stretched this out over like 4 or 5 episodes and they made General Meanie Face into something more, interesting. This could have been very interesting because the Jetman would then have to prove we're better than these guys, and here's why. Like, they kind of did in this, but not really. They didn't show that they earned the power and they deserve to have it. Also, am I the only one that was wondering if these 5 bozos that they picked to be the Neo-Jetman actually had Birdonic waves hit them at some point? Because there is nothing even remotely close to how the Jetman are after to get their power. Like, those suits are so crap.
yeah.
Like, you really gonna tell me that's another Sentai team? Because I think not, bud. I think
Yeah.
literally he hired 5 people and said, "Hey, I want you to pilot the big mech, and I want you to use your weapons and fire and go pew pew pew." But they weren't up to the challenge of being Jetman because they weren't properly trained for it. Not to say that these 4 were either, but at least they underwent training after they became Jetman to learn how to use the mechs and how to fight and how to use the weapons and all that.
They had time to get good, is what you're saying.
Yeah, but there was never that time for these guys, I don't think. So I wanted to like it. I wanted the story to be better developed, but it wasn't, and it sucked.
Yeah, again,
Yeah.
I think this would have been a lot better if it was placed 20 to 25 episodes earlier in the season.
Yeah.
Honestly,
It could have made for one of the best episodes in the series.
Yeah, exactly. Especially with how, like I said, with how crap their team chemistry was at the time. This could have been a good thing.
yeah,
Your team right now isn't functional. Here's functional, and then they kind of like overcome their own inner adversity to prove that they're a better
yeah.
team.
I don't know. Like, the more I see of Jetman, the more I think that Patrick is right, but he's not fully right. They don't have a problem telling character stories. They have a problem telling stories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there's so many missed opportunities. Like every episode we talk about, for
Yeah,
the most part, there's a complaint of the story or the development.
yeah, and I've started noticing that on the watch through. This is a very good character-driven series, but the actual story is all over the place, I guess.
I
Yeah.
mean, okay, so at this point, at the end of episode 41, we have had not 1, not 2, but 3 separate groups of people come in and assist the Jetman as potentially extra Rangers or whatever, but none of them are really given the time and dedication to do anything beyond, oh hey, here's a new Zord, or hey, here's adversity with Captain Dickhead, or whatever. Like they're there for like such a short period of time that they have no impact. Like nothing that happened in this two-parter, spoilers, will impact the rest of the season. I don't think.
No.
And I haven't seen the ending yet, but nothing has changed after this happened.
Yeah.
I mean, this could have not happened and it'd been fine. And the same thing is true for the other team ups. Like, if we hadn't met the other Dimension people, we lost nothing of value.
Yeah, I know.
And it bugs me that because like typically when you bring in a second group, like A Squad and B Squad, when the A Squad Rangers came back, there was a purpose. They were there to antagonize the B Squad. The Psycho Rangers, when they came in, they were definitely there to raise some hell. Like
Mm-hmm.
there are times when a second team comes in and they can clean stop and help the characters develop and the story develop more. But in this case, none of that really hits fruition to me.
Yeah, it's just a victim of how Sentai writing was at the time, unfortunately.
Yeah, but I also have heard some good stuff about other older Sentai, and it leads me to think that they might have had better writing than this.
Well, I mean, I did just finish watching another Sentai that's considered like one of the best of the 80s, Flashman, which it is. I do love Flashman, and I do think that we should take a look at it here on the show. But that also does have some flaws that I feel like wouldn't have been there if it was released like today or like maybe even in the 2000s. So I think in general, the older Sentais are just kind of held back by like just how writing quality was at the time.
And I mean, part of the problem is if you tried to release Jetman today, I don't think it would have been successful either. Because part of the charm of Jetman are the characters and how they are back then. Like
Mhm.
the character a guy would never have floated today. He'd been canceled almost immediately.
Yeah.
Kaori would not be that interesting. She'd just be she'd be written as like a self-entitled millennial or something. Like nothing super interesting. Like I think Jetman came at the right time, and it suffered some fatal faults with the times of with writing and
Yeah.
all that. But I don't think it could have been good today. Like if it was just released now.
Yeah.
I could probably put a bit of a counter argument to that because I
Do
haven't
it.
seen many or much of a lot of the Sentai since, like let's say Zuoger.
Mhm.
But it seems like modern day Sentai have a problem of not making the Rangers themselves very civilian. So a season like,
Then
huh?
I was gonna make a counterpoint to your counterpoint, but go ahead.
I think a season like Jetman would actually be a bit of fresh air for Sentai right now if they did something like this. At least with its characters and kind of their role in the world.
I'm gonna make a comment based off of my watching 20 episodes of Zenkaiser, and Anthony, feel free to jump in.
Mhm.
But I think the Zenkaiser cast is pretty dang good overall.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not talking
Like,
about like the quality of the writing. I'm talking about like you have a team of Sentai that most of them are mechs, and then you got another one where half of them are animal people, and then you got another one where they're all from space. Like the Jetman are all just like casual civilians brought into something bigger than them, and they have to adjust to it. Sentai doesn't do anything like that anymore.
that is true. We haven't seen that since
Yeah,
probably
that's what I'm saying. So I think Jetman would be a breath of
Kier
fresh
Ranger,
air.
maybe? You think it was Kier Ranger was the last one?
to do something like that?
Yeah,
Probably.
because Tokyuzer, I'm not even going to comment on it. Ninzer sucks, so I'm not going to comment on it. Zeozer, they were from another dimension for the most part.
Yeah.
You had like Cops
Kira
and
Mazer's from
Robbers.
another parent, like another planet, I think.
Yeah.
Kira Rays are all, mostly aliens as well.
Mhm.
Actually, Majors, all the protagonists were actually human.
But they're humans from another planet, right?
No.
Wasn't their mentor from another planet?
Yes, that's what it was. The mentor was from another
I thought they were like a royalty.
No.
No, they're not royalty
They're
from
all-
another
they're
planet.
all-
I'm mixing that up.
No, they're all from Earth.
What the heck am I thinking of?
You said Kira Major, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Kira Major's. What you're probably thinking is that, like, okay, one of the characters, I'm gonna put like a small spoiler warning. This is like not a big spoiler, but I'm gonna like try to to explain it the best I can. So one of the characters in the show is in fact quote unquote human, but something happens to this human to where he somewhat becomes an alien, kinda. But it's better explained if you actually watch the show.
Okay. I'll
Yeah.
take your word for it. I'm gonna watch it at some point.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, same here.
It's really good. It's a really good watch.
Yeah.
But I think that this, just to go back on the main topic, I think the Neo-Jetman, well, like 3 out of 10, I guess.
Yeah, I'll give it
Yeah.
that.
Okay.
I don't like this episode, or at least this two-part.
Yeah.
Like what we were saying earlier, if it was like 25 episodes earlier, it could have had the potential to be the best two-parter in the season. But
Yeah.
where it is here, it's pointless.
Like, even when I was first watching this, I didn't like it. I liked everything with Jetman, but this one really rubbed me the wrong way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Anthony, do you agree?
I give it a 3 too, only because that freaking commander. I hate him.
Yeah.
You know, they do say that when you hate a character as much as you're hating on him, Anthony, that he did his job as a character really freaking well then.
He did.
Yeah.
I couldn't say it.
So I think that's a plus for the episodes, honestly.
Oh yeah.
Well, thankfully, the next episode is actually a very good episode. Episode 42, Sleep on My Chest. I don't think this. I wouldn't call this a filler episode because it does hint at something that's going to come in the next two-parter, and it also kind of sets a little bit of something that'll play a part in the in-game arc. So it's called Sleep on My Chest, episode 42. So in this episode, Maria gets injured in battle, and Gray tries to nurse her back to health, but he can't in his state as a robot. And at the same time, okay. It's hard to describe this plot in a couple of sentences because a lot happens. So, Tronza reveals that he wants to create a powerful robot to defeat the Jetmen, which is going to play a part in our next big two-parter. But he creates the prototype for a robot called G2, who kind of develops like a little brother relationship with Gray. And we get a brief scene where Guy and Kaori are showing signs of their relationship not working because they're very different people. But then pretty much the rest of the episode is Gray trying to nurse Maria back to health, but she gets really cold because it's raining, and Gray can't do anything because he's a robot. So he literally leaves her unconscious in the care of Ryu, because Ryu shows up trying to help, trying to get her back so that he can turn her back into Rie again. And he leaves her, and there's like this really emotional scene where like Gray is standing out in the middle of the rain, and he's just like looking down, and he's just like, I couldn't help Maria when I should have. Like, it's a very powerful moment. And that's why I love this episode, because I have I have no idea where this episode is going to go. So, like, it starts off with like G2 shows up, and you think, oh, okay, so this is just going to be one of those episodes where, this not so evil monster shows up and the Jetman befriend him. But that's not the episode. Instead, like, the entire episode gets taken over revolving around Gray and Maria's relationship, and I got to give it kudos because this gives more character development for Gray. Like, I don't know, I would. I love this episode. I kind of just glanced over it when I watched it, like the first two times I watched Jetman. But looking at it now, it's a great episode. This is probably a really amazing villain episode. And like, what did you guys think?
This is one of the episodes that reminds me why, just jumping ahead to like end of season character analysis of Gray is probably my favorite villain to come out of this season, because he's very unique in the fact that he's like sophisticated yet quiet. He's not cocky, but then he also has a very soft side to him. And usually robot villains in Sentai are depicted as just like bloodthirsty maniacs. But Gray is, I like to call him suave.
Yeah,
if
absolutely.
that makes any sense. And I've always loved his characterization, and this episode kind of brings all that to the forefront, where he hates that he's a robot because he can't properly care for the person he loves, and it's pretty heavy. And it's like, like, why are they making me feel things for the bad guys?
Exactly. It's like that scene where Scorpius dies in Trakina's arms, and Trakina's all like, "No," and you're like, "Oh, this is sad." And wait a minute, these are the bad guys. Why do I feel sorry for them?
Yeah. But this episode also has one of the best, I guess, cinematography moments of the season, where it's nighttime and it's in the rain. You just see him staying there with his eyes glowing, like deep in thought. Like it's a really, really well done episode.
Absolutely. Riz, Anthony, you want to add anything?
I'll say something first. So this was a very well written episode. The fact that like this, I love the fact that like it's more development for Maria and Gray, and I also feel so bad for that robot because I'm like, wow, like
G2?
yes, like oh my.
And he gets created and then abused the whole episode, and he's just trying to be nice. Why you gotta
Yes,
do
I'm
him
like,
dirty like that?
look, like it's okay, buddy. Like it's gonna be fine. Like, and then what happens to him in the end is just also tragic. It's like, dang, like he just, like no one even knew where he was, and he's just gone.
Yeah. Riz?
They did my man C2 dirty.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Um, overall, this what? Yeah, pouring up
Pour one out for the boy.
Yeah, no, we have to, because he deserves it, man. That was tragic to me. Overall, this is one of the better written episodes of Jetman. Writers, why wasn't this more consistently done? Like, y'all have already said everything else I want to say here, so I'm left just saying that.
Well, I think it's better written because it's character centric. When Jetman tries to write things character centric, it's amazing, but it doesn't always do that.
Not the Love Squared wasn't.
Yeah. I give this a 10 out of 10. I absolutely love it.
Yeah.
I'm giving this a 9.
Yeah, it's a 10, just because Gray.
Nick?
I'm gonna give it a 9.
Okay. Yeah, great episode. Next up, we get an episode that actually revolves around Aya, believe it or not, the mentor, called Sneak into the Commander's Body. Where in this episode, so Tron, at the beginning of this episode, we find out that Tronza is almost about to complete his giant robot. So Radiguet, determined to defeat the Jetman before Tronza can do it, because that's what Radiguet does. He's a petty jerk. He brainwashes Aya with the biodimensional beast and tries to use her to try to kill the Jetman, and by sabotaging their weapons and try to destroy their changers. There's a brief scene where we get some more Guy and Kaori drama, where Guy is brought to meet Kaori's parents, and he gets frustrated because of how judgmental they are, and he storms out. It's subtle. It doesn't play a huge part in the rest of the episode. What did you guys think about this one? I mean, I think it's cool that Aya gets a focus episode, but what about you guys? What do you think?
Honestly,
was
this
alright.
felt like filler to me. Sorry, Anthony, go ahead.
No, you're good. I don't have much to say really. It was all right.
It just felt like a lot of filler, and at this point in the season to be getting Aya characterization, it just feels too late to really matter.
Mm-hmm.
I just think it was badass when she pilots Jet Garuda by herself, though.
Oh yeah,
that was
that is badass.
hilarious.
But I feel like it's still a little too late.
Mhm.
Like, and
I can see that.
I don't see Aya really any differently next episode. Like, this hadn't really added anything to her, in my opinion. So to me, this is just standard Jetman filler, honestly. Like, with a prelude to what happens next.
There's a couple of stupid comments I want to make. First of all, did she seriously try to microwave their bracers to destroy them?
Dude, okay. What were they smoking when they thought that was a good idea?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Wrap them in a paper towel for 5 minutes.
Okay. Here's a thing you wouldn't say on American TV. Hey kids, here's how you heat up your morphers.
Yeah. Take it out of box. And the part where they had to go inside for her to fight the thing, that stupid magic school bus theme was playing in my head the whole time. I don't know why.
Oh my god, I can't unsee that now. I can't unsee this. It's there. It's done. We're game over, guys.
And then
And then the third
one more thing.
Okay.
It seem like why didn't they? Okay, so when they get attacked by the Vyrum during their little training exercise thing, where the commander had told them hey, I am gonna upgrade your weapons or whatever, so you can take more, so it could survive, take more damage or whatever, and none of them thought it was suspicious that she just didn't unhook their shackles and just let them get attacked and didn't do nothing.
Yeah, I was thinking it too. Like, Ryu doesn't even react. Like, why didn't you release us immediately? He just he takes the controls, releases the others, and then tells Aya to run away.
I'm like, wait, hold on. What's your deal? And they would have ran off. That would have been better if I had written it that way. But that's just me.
And does Kaori know all about these energy readings, and how does she figure out how to shrink their mech down? How does Kaori of all people figure that out? That was just weird.
It's
I know.
But I think the important thing to get out of this episode, though, is that we're finally starting to see that this whole Guy Kiori thing isn't really panning out, because Guy is starting to realize that he bit off more than he can chew here. He is not a part of that high class lifestyle. And
this is what I was saying in a very early episode. I think in our first podcast we did on Jetman, Guy doesn't know Kaori. Guy has no idea about her. He saw a pretty girl. He got infatuated with her, and Love Square shenanigans began. Now, if it was just Guy for the entire season chasing her, and they got together, that's cool. But the fact that they wrote the story in such a way that it devolved into that mess of a love square, it bugs me. And honestly, I feel really justified now in my annoyance from earlier
Like
because
it was
this it's obvious that he doesn't belong in that world and he doesn't want to be in that world.
like this was never outright stated in the show in anywhere. This is just kind of how I perceived it. He saw that she liked Ryu and wanted to one up him by
Yes.
by making her attracted to him as like a ha. Now that he's done it, he's like, oh crap, this isn't as fun as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's my complaint is that
Yeah,
they
but
cared
I
for
can
too
also
long.
see Guy being this kind of petty though.
No, he could definitely be that kind of petty. I'm not disputing that.
Yeah.
What I'm disputing is that okay, if they had done it without the love square and he chased her for the first 10, 15 episodes, she finally said, "Yeah, I want to date you." And then he started to realize for like the next 20 episodes, crap, what am I in? And then like they break up around episode 40. That would have been a better story than what we got.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they did kind of hit this whole guy doesn't gel with this lifestyle thing kind of suddenly. Now that you mention
Yeah,
it.
like they had stuff before where she says like, "Oh, you have to eat a certain way at the table or whatever," but again, too little, too late.
Yeah.
Like that's the lesson I'm getting from all these different storylines that are kind of coming up now is that it should have been done a lot sooner.
Yeah.
It's sort of like one of those things where like you crave something so bad, and when you finally get it, you're just like, oh, this is it.
Yeah.
This is not excited. I thought it'd be better than this.
And like look, I could definitely see a world where Guy and Kyrie make it work and they're, able to overcome the odds and become a couple that could go all the way.
Mm.
But that would have required a lot more storytelling from a very early point. Like and a bit more focus on that relationship rather than the I know I complain about this all the time, but that love square should not have happened.
Yeah.
And because it happened, we get a subpar story here for these two where we could have had something really great instead.
hmm
Yep.
I'd give the Commander's Body episode like maybe a 6 out of 10.
Yeah.
What
I
about
give it a
Riz and Anthony?
Uh, I'd give it around a 5, I think.
Okay. All right. Next up, we got a two-parter, which is kind of the kind of a build up, the payoff from what's been built up these last two episodes with Tronza, creating his ultimate weapon. In this two-parter, Tronza creates a giant robot called Veronica. And part one, he captures a lot of civilians because Veronica is powered where civilians are trapped inside, and she absorbs their life energy to get powered up. And he sends Veronica after the Jetman, during which he easily walks through the Jetman. Like it beats down Great Icarus pretty badly. But the plane gets foiled because he has the Jetman cornered, and he's ready to defeat them. But Radiguet, being Radiguet, tries to take control, and it ruins the plan to defeat the Jetman. All the Jetmen except Ryu and Guy get captured, and then they're used to power up the Veronica. And in episode 45, Ryu and Guy work together to fix the Jetman's mechs. And to kind of cut a long story short, the Jetman do defeat Veronica, but they get a little bit of help from. Okay, who else do you think? Radiguet. because he is just a petty guy who would rather help the Jetman than watch somebody else defeat them. He frees Raita, Kaori, and Akko to help them defeat the Great Veronica. And he actually disappears from the Vyram. He doesn't return with the Vyram at the end of this episode. I like this episode. So there's a little bit more drama with Guy and Kaori in the first part where like they acknowledge that they don't communicate well, but it's just kind of glanced over a little bit. I think what I love about this episode though is Guy's subtle character development because he shows a lot of genuine concern, not just for Kaori, but for Raita and Akko as well. So he really does care about his teammates at this point. He's torn up that they're all in pain, and I love that moment. And I love the final scene where they're all at a restaurant and sharing a drink. Like it really just shows how far their team chemistry has come. So it's a simple filler episode. No, not filler, two-parter episode. Obviously, some stuff does change because of like the dynamic between Radigan and Tronza, but I mean, I think this episode does show just how far the Jetmen have come as a team, and that's why I really like this episode.
Honestly, the most powerful part of this two-parter is the last scene where Guy orders the milk and Ryu orders the alcohol, and they swap them.
Mm-hmm.
That shows how far this team has come, like where they can do stuff like that.
Yeah.
That was the best part of it, honestly. Like,
And it's great how, Guy and Kaori's drama doesn't play a huge part in this episode. Like, it's great that we have a two-part episode that can revolve around the Jetman's freedom, but we don't have to involve any romantic issues that much.
well, I think it's good that they're bringing it up subtly here and there, and they're not just suddenly saying in the last episode, "Okay, we're breaking up now." Bam, done. No build up, nothing. They're doing some build up, and I can respect that from a storytelling point of view.
Yeah. You want to add anything, Patrick or Anthony?
Yeah.
Say something.
Yeah.
Love
That scene of him at the pool, where he saw Kaori's reflection in the pool. You could tell he was like starting to get upset that it wasn't working, or something. Like he genuinely cared for her, but he was like, "This, I can't. I'm not what she needs." Like that's kind of what that was implying, and he felt bad about it.
Yeah.
But
Also, the episode arc where Akko tells her she should have gone with Ryu instead.
mhm.
Yeah, like there's a lot of doubt and like questioning on the two of their parts on can this really work? Or are we fooling ourselves here?
But
Go ahead.
one of the
Cut you off.
things I like about this, and it's one of the reasons why I like the whole Taranza thing, is that this entire time we haven't really talked about it too much. But I did mention it earlier that he kind of split this into a three team battle here, and this entire time Radicate is just doing everything he can to one up Taranza, even to the point where just completely blowing a chance for them to finally beat the Jetman just so he can get at Taranza. I love how these characters are always at each other's throats, these villains. Like, I mentioned this at the start of this season review when I said that these were my favorite villains in Sentai because of that. They're not like a well-built evil team. They all hate each other in a way. And their internal sabotaging is a dynamic I love about these guys.
Yeah. Absolutely amazing villains.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, from the get go, we knew they were not going to be unified. We knew that they weren't going to ever get along and that they'd be going after each other to try and get that title of being the Vyram leader.
Mm-hmm.
So we knew this going in that they were not going to be like a unified threat to the Jetman all at one time.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, I think I saw this a little bit differently than y'all did, but in some ways, I feel like Tranza united the villains ever so slightly. Not named Radicate. Radicate, you could not have unified with them to begin with, but like Marie and Gray, they don't oppose him as much openly. They may not like him, but they go along with it because why the hell not? And I like that.
I think that Marie and Gray, they don't like Tranza, but they don't want to stand up against him, and they do get concerned when Radicate gets beat up by him.
Oh no, absolutely.
Yeah, so Mhm.
Like absolutely, they aren't going to help him, but they're not going to get in his way. But they're also going to take the credit with him
Mhm.
if he ends up beating the Jetman. Like they're going to celebrate all together. There's no like, oh, Tranza did this. No, they're going to be like, oh, we did this because they didn't get in the way and they didn't try and one up him or anything. Like I feel like they might have if he had actually defeated the Jetman and he claimed the leader of the Vyram role, then I think no one would have like objected and they would have just fallen in line and said, okay, yeah, now you're our leader.
I don't know. I think Marie and Gray would have obeyed with a snarl in their voice, but Radicate still would have tried to kill him.
Oh no, Radicate would have to be killed if he won the title of the Vyram leader.
Yeah.
Like, there's no way Radicate would have survived, but I think Maria and Gray would have obeyed him. And yes, there would have been that little bit of about it,
Mm,
But it wouldn't have been to the point of like rehabilitating the entire thing. Like they would have followed him and done what he said, but they wouldn't like it.
yeah, but the fact that we're going into this much discussion about the villain, because I know that Nate, you've seen more Sentai than I have, but have there been any other Sentai seasons where the villains have been this antagonistic to one another? Because
Not that I can think of, honestly.
yeah, because out of the seasons I've seen, they're usually either the clear leader or they're all on even footing and they all respect one another and aid one another. But here, they're just trying to dick each other over constantly.
Yeah, I've never seen this happen in any other Sentai.
I can't even
I
think of
mean-
a Power Ranger season where this happens. I mean, Lightspeed Rescue kind of did something like this, but it was never to this extent.
I was about to
Yeah.
mention Lightspeed Rescue as a good example of it.
Yeah.
There was a little bit of a grudge, but not to this level in the Zeo era with the Moon Crew versus the Messina Empire.
Yeah, if Rita and Zed played a bigger role in Zeo, it would have worked, but
Oh no, absolutely. But they
Yeah.
didn't play a bigger role because of budget or whatever.
yeah. But yeah, these villains are just so different.
Yeah, and honestly, I like some of these villains better than other Sentais by quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think they did a good job giving a good story for the villains, and that's why the hero story kind of sucks at some points, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yeah, how many
So,
times are we
I
sitting here?
will-
Yeah, how many times are we sitting here saying that the villains were probably better written than the actual Sentai team themselves?
Dude, I had no opinion on the. I don't even remember the guy's name anymore from Sinkins. They're like the main
Gadoshu,
villain. Yeah,
Dokuku.
yeah. Dokuku left no impact on me.
No.
Dokuku was just some guy that was there.
He
That
was
he
a
wanted
force.
to do.
He was a force more than a villain.
Exactly. But I mean, like the side villains, blanking on the name of that too. Like the rival of Takaru, Juzo was really well written.
Oh yeah.
Bosco was incredibly written. Bosco is one of my favorite villains in Sentai, hands down. Like
Mhm.
I haven't found a villain that's come as close to Bosco, like being that good. And the Jetman villains kind of get there, but well, okay, Tronza gets there, but not quite to the level of Bosco.
Yeah.
Radiga too, but again, not to that level. Mainly the relationship of Tronza and Radiguet is what makes them compelling to make me even say they're into a minor league below Bosco and the others like that.
I think Gray and Maria's relationship is great too.
Oh no, it's definitely great, but it's not like a antagonistic. They feed off each other to make them better villains.
Yeah,
Gray and Maria's is more about their relationship and them trying to fall in love, which is great, but it's not defining them as the villain and the threat. Like nobody's sitting there saying, "Oh no, Maria and Gray are getting closer. I'm threatened by this." Like nobody cares outside of those two.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough.
But Radiguet and Tronza, I mean, they're feeding off each other. Like they're trying to one up each other here. So the threat factor of these two combined against Jetman is big.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if we never had Tronza, Radiguet would have been just another run-of-the-mill villain like Dokuku to me. But because Tronza came in at the end, things are happening now.
What do we want to give this Veronica two-parter? I give it a 9 out of 10.
I'm gonna go with a 9.
probably slap a 7 on it.
Anthony?
Anthony?
I'm gonna give it a 9, but I have to say this right now before we continue. I have to say that my God, my boy, Radiguet has to be the biggest hater in the entire existence of this show. And I mean that in the good way. Because like this dude right here refuses to die or give up. He's like, no, for that. I'm absorbing his energy. Like he literally absorbed the energy from the robot to himself. How badass is that? You can't. I've never heard any other Sentai villain ever doing this. Ever. And he gets back up again. And again, he has been the most defiant villain. He's like, I'm not letting any other villain outclass me or top me in any sort of fashion.
Yeah,
He did it with Empress,
Yeah.
and he's doing it again with Tronza. He's like, nah, nope, not with me.
Stubbornness and persistence is the two best words to describe the man.
This dude,
Just wait until 2 episodes later.
Yeah,
he lives off
really.
hate. I think hatred is his strong suit.
Yeah.
And I love that about him. He's like, nah, I refuse to give up. Like, we continue now.
Yeah. Okay. We got before we get on to probably the biggest episode, with the biggest thing that happens, we got one more filler episode, the very last filler episode, called the Great Demon King of the Tomato Field. This is a Raita-centric episode. Now, there is a little bit of an impact in the next episode, because in this episode we do see Radiguet briefly wandering through the human world. He gets transformed back into his human form, although this time he maintains his memory and he wants to get revenge on Tronza. But the bulk of this episode is that Tronza's latest monster takes the form of a tomato monster that Raita used to see in his nightmares, and Raita has to overcome his fear of that. This episode is dumb, and I love it. And the reason why I love it is because I can 100% relate to Raita in this episode, because we see multiple scenes where, like, he remembers having nightmares as a kid where he's, like, sleeping and then this tomato monster comes out of nowhere. It kind of reminds me of this dream I had when I was, like, 4 or 5, maybe 6 years old, where I just remember, like, having this weird nightmare where, like, these 3 giant bees come out of nowhere and they're just like flying all around me, and it just like totally freaked me out, and I was afraid of bees for like the next couple of years. So I can 100% relate to Raita in this episode. I mean, other than that, I mean, it's okay. I also love Guy's joke. That actually really made me laugh, where Raita's like where people are trying to comfort him over him being afraid of tomatoes, and then Guy is all like, well, I mean, you eat tomatoes so much, maybe tomatoes are angry and they're just here to get revenge on you. Like, that's hilarious. This episode is dumb, and I love it. And nobody's going to tell me otherwise. I like this episode. But what about you guys?
I thought it was hilarious. Like, like, Rice is like, no, tomato monster, get away. And the end, like, what's also interesting is that, like, in the end, he managed to actually overcome his fears and was like, I'm gonna eat this thing.
Yeah. What about the other guys?
You can go first, Riz.
I was gonna let you go first, Patrick.
I mean, I don't really have much to say about this one, so
Yeah, like, it's definitely entertaining in the stupid filler way, but I really wish we had gotten something more engaging for Raita at this point, because we hadn't seen a good Raita dedicated episode in quite some time. I think not since the episode 20s when he was in the prehistoric times.
Yeah.
That was the last Raita-centric episode, so I was kind of hoping for something with more depth.
yeah,
But
especially seeing how
we
this is
didn't-
the last filler episode of the season.
Exactly. So not having that, it kind of lowered my opinion of the episode just a little bit. But I still greatly enjoyed the hijinks and the hilarity of the tomato monster. But yeah, I wanted more for Raita.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I like it for selfish reasons, but that doesn't mean I'm about to give this like a 10 out of 10. I give it more like a 7. It's dumb and I think it's entertaining, but it's not some like big groundbreaking episode. But what about you guys?
5 or 6, I guess.
Okay.
I'm gonna go with a 6.
I'm gonna give it a
Anything?
7 because it make me laugh.
Okay. All right, now we're moving on to the very last episode in this batch, and I do want to go into some details on the ending, just for you guys who are listening to truly grasp just how terrifying this episode is. So this episode is called "The Glory of Emperor Tranza." This episode is where, after 10 episodes of ruling over the Vyram, we finally get our final defeat of Emperor Tranza. So in this episode, Tranza takes matters into his own hands, and he creates this bazooka that he's able to use to turn the Jetman into trophies. He hunts them down one by one, slowly turning everyone into trophies until only Ryu is left. Radiguet, in his human form, helps Ryu get to Tranza, although Ryu doesn't know that he's Radiguet. And in the middle of the battle, Radiguet takes on his human form again and, helps weaken Tranza. The Jetman defeat him with the fire bazooka, and he gets sent off the edge of a cliff. And here is where we get to the end of Tranza's arc. So here's exactly what happens. Franza is defeated, and he's wondering how he could have been defeated. And then Radiguet comes in, and he stabs Franza in the hand and keeps like twisting the blade around, like it's really brutal. And this is something I forgot to tell you. Franza did something similar to Radiguet in his first episode, where like he's beating Radiguet. And he's saying, like, say my name, Radiguet. And then Radiguet is like, Tranza. And then Tranza's like, no, say my name. And then eventually Radiguet is forced to say Emperor Tranza. Well, Radiguet is doing the same thing here. He is twisting the blade deep into Tranza's hand, saying, say my name, Tranza. And eventually Tranza is forced to say, Lord Radiguet. Brutal. Once again, just there's cruel, sadistic, and petty, and then there's whatever the hell Radiguet is.
Y'all. hate.
What's even more, but what makes this even more petty is that after hearing Franza declare him Lord Radiguet. Radiguet decides that he is not going to kill Tronza. He is going to let him live in fear for the rest of his life. Let him live in fear of Radiguet for the rest of his life. And the final scene is Tranza is this mentally broken and powerless man beyond repair who's living in a mental institution with no name. And he sometimes just, has like mental fits, just screaming. It's, for kids. This is a kid's show.
Yeah. Very disturbing. Can I say one thing real quick, Bill, before I get my thoughts on this?
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't know why, but for some apparent reason, freaking devastation from SPD, just him saying "let them marinate in fear" just went to my head. Like, let them marinate in fear. It popped in my head as soon as this scene happened. But wow, yeah. So yeah, Renegades a monster. Like this dude is a straight savage. He literally let Tronza live, but he let him live in the worst way possible. At that point, if it gets to the point where I'm basically brain damaged, to that point where I'm physically and mentally tortured by this dude, just get rid of me. I'm sorry. I'd rather you just kill me.
Yeah,
Like,
like
jeez.
Radiguet took that "say my name" thing on a very personal level, and you could tell that he had been waiting to do this.
Mm.
He wanted to make Tranza regret ever doing that to him. Man, Tranza was terrifying in this episode.
Oh yeah.
Just chasing them down on foot in casual clothes through the
Oh
city like
yeah.
this. Oh man, this was probably up to this point maybe the best episode of the season because of how intense it was.
Yes, it is.
Mm-hmm.
Um okay, so starting off, Transit really again upped the threat level to make everyone freak out about him and make him wildly frightening. But Radiguet has to one up him again and become the biggest threat to the Jetman by defeating Tronza. Because for him to defeat a Tronza means that he's actually more powerful and more able than Tronza is. Like that that's frightening because up until now I was kind of expecting Tronza to be the final big bad of the season. I didn't expect Radiguet to make a comeback. And because he did it in the way he broke Tronza, oh my god. That that right there is amazing. And I'm honestly very excited to see how Radiguet keeps it going in the finale arc. So I'm gonna start this off by saying 9.9.
Yeah, this is as close to a 10 as you're going to get in this season for sure.
Yeah.
Too.
And honestly, my only complaint is that I'm really scared that we're not gonna be able to top this in the finale. And that this could have been the finale for the season, and I've been happy.
Well, we'll see how it is. We'll see how you feel about the finale.
Yeah. I'm sure it's gonna be amazing, but right now my thoughts are you can't top this. So
Yeah.
we'll see what they do.
But keep in mind, everybody who's listening, that means that of the original, so we started off with 4 Vyram villains. One of them is now officially defeated; like he's no longer in play. So we still have 3 more left. Radiguet, Gray, and Maria. We'll see how they end up in the in-game arc.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you want to add? What did you want to give this episode, Anthony, for your rating?
Oh, definitely a 9.
Okay. I did want to briefly dedicate a segment of this to talking about Tranza, but I think we've covered Tranza in general. throughout this whole review, so I don't think we really need to talk about him much more. He was just a great villain. In fact, I would need to watch Live Man again because it's been a while, but this might be the Yutaka Hirose, I believe his name was. This might be his best villain performance, in my opinion. But I'll come back to that when we take a look at Live Man. I think I want to ask Riz and Anthony this. Has your opinion with how you previously ranked the Jetman characters, has it changed at all?
No.
No, I think it's still the same for me. Guy, Raita, Ryu, Ako, Kaori.
Okay. But do you think that I mean, I have to ask you this now, Riz. Like, do you think that Jetman has gotten a little bit better with these episodes? Because you were leaning toward it just being a little average with some great characters last time. Do you think that these episodes made you like it more?
It's on the upper end of average right now because of the last couple episodes. So it's trending up, but it's still not Gokai Senken's great to me.
Okay. What are you thinking, Anthony?
Riz pretty much summed it up. That's literally what I was thinking about to say. So
Okay. Do we want to add any closing thoughts before we, as we're moving into the endgame arc? Any
I'm ready.
closing thoughts?
I'm
Okay.
ready.
Just a warning, Riz and Anthony. The next 2 episodes are going to be incredibly emotional.
That's fine.
This whole
Don't.
ending,
don't, don't, no. I'm not
What are
ready.
you saying, Patrick?
now Sam, the whole ending for Jetman is pretty heavy.
Yeah, like just to say this to Riz, like maybe the action and like how it is with like Radigan and Transa, maybe it's not that intense, but I think the endgame arc is a huge emotional roller coaster. So it'll probably hit you on a completely different level, if you know what I mean. Would you say so, Patrick?
Yeah, because the first time I watched through Jetman, I kind of had my expectations for what the ending was going to be, and none of that happened.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm ready. Let's do it.
Absolutely.
Let's get it.
All right, guys. Well, in our next video, podcast, pardon me, we will be taking a look at the last 4 episodes, the endgame arc of Jetman. So please join us for that as we wrap up as we are going to be wrapping up yet another journey we've taken on the Toka Secrets podcast. We hope you guys enjoyed this. If you are watching this on YouTube, please like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel if you're not already subscribed. To those that listen to us on Spotify and iTunes, we appreciate your contributions. Please check us out at animesecrets.org and check us out on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and all those other social media sites. And if you're on YouTube, please leave some comments down below on like what other things you would like for us to cover. Once again, we thank you guys so much for taking the time to listen to this podcast. We are Toku Secrets, and we will see you next time as we wrap up Jetman. But until next time, we are spreading our wings and taking flight for before we enter the final descent of our journey. But until that time, guys, see you later.